As I have mentioned during the last episode, from this episode onwards, we will be analyzing or we will be reviewing the arrival of the British in Hindustan and the consequences thereafter, which the nation had to suffer from such an arrival. We have seen what all disasters were committed or exercised or practiced in Hindustan by those who came from the Mughal world and the Arab world, and also from the part of the Portuguese. But the disasters, the destructions, the brutal experience which Hindustan had to suffer following the arrival of the British were, I can say, 100 times more disastrous than what Hindustan had to suffer from the arrival of the Arabs, the Mughals, and the Portuguese combined together. Though the Arabs and Mughals killed hundreds of thousands of the citizens of Hindustan in order to loot the wealth of Hindustan and to impose their religions, the number of people brutally and slowly killed by intentionally induced or imposed famines in Hindustan by the part of British had killed millions and millions of the citizens of Hindustan. If an Arab invader cut the throats of hundreds or thousands of innocent citizens of Hindustan, they were dead in an instant. But when the famine was intentionally induced or imposed in Hindustan, those people who died from such a famine, they had to suffer a slow and agonious death. And that is more terrible than cutting the throat of a person and killing him in an instant. Just think about it. So, how all these situations happened, and when those situations happened, were not taught to the citizens of Hindustan, neither in the schools nor anywhere else. We were asked to learn the reforms Lord Wellesley has imposed in India. We had to remember who was the first Viceroy of India. We were asked to learn a lot of things about the greatness of the British and the central government of Hindustan, which came into existence for the first time. They never made us understand about the real brutality which Hindustan had to suffer from those people came to Hindustan. It is because of the misunderstanding, or it is because of the unawareness of the reality. Majority of the people are not patriotic, and majority of the people are unaware of the real history of the nation, and also majority of the people are careless. And the so-called democracy they use as the license to do anything by anybody, anywhere, at any time, without thinking about the integrity of the nation, as well as the difficulty which he or she can cause for the rest of the citizens. This is what happened. This is due to the misleading of the population of Hindustan by the central government of India until the last few years. This is a fact. So let us start verifying or reviewing the arrival of English or the British people from the very beginning, how it started, how it continued, and this review we will continue in the next few episodes. I hope this will be more instructive than what all we had learned, including me, what all we had learned from the schools and our colleges. So let us start. It was in 1608 the British came to Hindustan. and further looting and destruction of Hindustan started. Before going to further details, let us have a brief review of the reality which existed in Hindustan and in England during the period when the British came to Hindustan for the first time. See, this is an official map of Hindustan during 1600 and the same of England or Britain at the same period. The total land area of Hindustan, that was 4,907,243 square kilometers. And the total population of Hindustan at that time was 115 millions. That means the density of the population of Hindustan in 1600 was 23 people per kilometer square. At the same time, the total land area of Britain was 209,331 kilometer squares, and the population was 5,600,000. So the density of population in Britain was about 27 persons per kilometer square. So the reality was that population density of Hindustan was inferior to that of Britain when the British came to Hindustan. Here we have an affirmation by the American historian Will Durant about the invasion of Hindustan by the British. And this statement or this affirmation states that the British conquest of India was an invasion and a destruction of a high civilization. Please note, the invasion and destruction of a high civilization by a trading company, the British East India Company, utterly without scruple or principle, careless of art and greedy of gain, overrunning with fire and sword, a country temporarily disordered and helpless, bribing and murdering, annexing and stealing, and beginning that career of illegal and legal plunder, which was now, that is in that period, that was in 1930, gone on ruthlessly for 173 years. He also states a country temporarily disordered and helpless. Why disordered and helpless? Because we already had all the brutal consequences and experiences following the arrival of the Mughals and the Arabs and the Portuguese. So naturally, the nation was in a situation of confusion and helpless, and this situation was exploited by the British. Let us see the rest. Here I have reported an affirmation by the American Unitarian minister J.T. Sunderland about the reality before and even during the invasion of the Arabs, Mughals, and the Portuguese. And he states nearly every kind of manufacture or product known to the civilized world, nearly every kind of creation of man's brain and hand existing anywhere and priced either for its utility or for its beauty had long been produced in India. He continues that India was a far greater industrial and manufacturing nation than any in Europe or any other in Asia. It was about this great nation I was taught when I was in my high school or middle school classes that India is a poor country and it belongs to the third world. But instead of teaching it like that, if the truth was taught, okay, we have some poverty, we are facing a disaster situation now here, but it was due to this type of brutality which happened or which Hindustan had to suffer. If in such a way we were instructed or we were taught in the schools, how it would have boosted our self-esteem and how it would have avoided the inferiority complex of the majority of the Indians still suffering in our nation. Please think about these facts. Here I have reported some descriptions about the arrival of the British and how was the situation during that time in Hindustan. This Captain William Hawkins of the ship Hector was the first British to come to Hindustan in 1608 during the rule or administration of the ruler Jahangir, the descendant of the Mughal invaders of Hindustan. Hawkins asked help to establish an industrial unit in Surat in order to facilitate trade between the two countries. Though the request was accepted and a grant was offered initially, it was later discontinued due to the pressure from the Portuguese. Later, another British of the name Thomas Roy came in the year 1615, who finally succeeded in establishing a trade center in Surat. In the beginning, they were only interested in trading. See, in the beginning, they were interested only in trading. Oh, just imagine how beautiful. It was an international collaboration. It was a commercial agreement, or it was a commercial relationship between Britain and Hindustan, because Hindustan had its own products, either manufactured or natural, and Britain needed all those commodities. So it was an international trading contract or collaboration. Very good. But in the next episode, let us see what happened later. And these were all facts and truths which were never taught in our schools. And if you think that these information are important for a true citizen of Hindustan to understand and to keep in mind, to be more patriotic and to be more devoted, please, I request you, please share these videos and this episode to the members of the new generation of our nation. So thank you very much for your kind attention to my words. See you in the next episode. Jai Hind.